Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Piano Cleveland's Quarantine Concerts. My name is Jeroen Kohlberg and I'm president of Piano Cleveland. Today is going to be our last concert in this series. It was such a privilege being with you in the last 2 months, every Thursday evening. And we are so grateful to you for being so supportive of our program. We managed to raise almost $18,000, which is more than we expected. And thanks to you and to your generous support, we're able to contribute and pay our musicians throughout the month of June. This is absolutely wonderful. We're so thrilled. Today, we're going to present a wonderful program with Virginia Crabtree on the flute and Marshall Griffith on the piano. They're going to present a program called America is Beautiful. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So both Virginia and Marshall are CIM alumni. Marshall received a Distinguished Alumni Award from CIM in the category Composer Virtuoso. And Virginia performed at the Sydney Olympics. So I'm sure that you're going to enjoy Virginia's and Marshall's performance today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to the Quarantine Concerts again this evening. I have a program with my flutist, Virginia Crabtree, called America the Beautiful. You heard our first selection, which was a medley of Sousa marches. And when you hear of John Philip Sousa, of course we think of marches, but the name's unusual. Sousa. Well, his father was Portuguese. His mother was German. So we get this sort of interesting, one of the more iconic American composers has a Portuguese roots. So his father was in the Marine Band, and John Philip, the son, wanted very much to join the circus band, and so his father went out and enlisted him in the military bands. Well, it turned out to be a great idea, kind of straightened him out, and then he absolutely found that he loved every bit of being around this military environment. He was the director of the president's own band under 5 presidents. He wrote 137 marches, but one of his main composition interests was writing operettas, and he wrote 9 of them. If you've ever been to a marching band or a college football game and you see the band out on the field and there's this gigantic white tuba thing, well, that's called a sousaphone, and it's invented by John Philip Sousa. So that is a little bit of history on John Philip Sousa. Stephen Foster is actually considered sort of the father of American song. He was born in 1826, and he died young in 1864 at the age of 37. He wrote 200 songs, which does sound a lot of songs, and it is, but when Irving Berlin writes nearly 1,800, it doesn't seem as many. But his songs are sort of the Gregorian chant of American music. They are still with us. His song, Old Folks at Home, is sung every time there's a Kentucky Derby race to this day. And the state song of Florida is a Stephen Foster song. The song for the Oh Susanna was the song of the California Gold Rush. So he's always reflecting the times in which he lived, and he wrote some really beautiful melodies. Nevertheless, in 1940, he was actually on a U.S. postage stamp to recognize his contribution to American music. We're just going to play one song by Stephen Foster tonight, and that's Beautiful Dreamer. So here's Beautiful Dreamer by Stephen Foster.
Born in 1968, Scott Joplin is the father of the American ragtime. He grew up in Missouri and Arkansas and is the composer of over 44 rags, 1 ballet, and 2 operas. His most famous rag, the Maple Leaf Rag, sold 75,000 copies in the first 6 months of publication. It was by far his most popular of all time.
I have played the Maple Leaf Rag I don't know how many times. No, but I'm not playing it this evening. I chose a portion of one of his pieces called Solace, a Mexican serenade, because the rags are kind of the same kind of piano music all the way through. But in this piece, he represents a truly great piano understanding. It's got different ranges, all kinds of interesting textures. It's just a beautiful piano piece. And since this is the Piano Cleveland, I thought that seemed appropriate to play, I think, one of the most beautiful things that I ever play on the piano. So here's a little portion of Solace by Scott Joplin. Copeland is considered the dean of American composers, which is interesting because he actually never really had an academic position as a composer or as a musician. He was primarily a composer. He was also a player, he was a clarinetist, and he also conducted quite a bit. He wrote 200 pieces. Most of them are the well-known ballet scores, which involve Appalachian Spring and Billy the Kid, Rodeo, and El Salón, Mexico. But he's also famous for Fanfare for a Common Man and A Lincoln Portrait. He's the author of 2 books, one of which is well known. It's called What to Listen to in Music, and is a treasure, wonderful, wonderful book. Well, he was in Cleveland when I was a student at the Institute, and I got a chance to interview him about his book, and it was just a wonderful experience. He was the Dean of American Composers. Leonard Bernstein, in honor and a tribute, sent Copeland a fugue that he wrote, and it came back in the mail with corrections. So they were very good friends. In fact, they used to play bar mitzvah parties in New York when they were students together. So they were friends, and I think there was sort of a tongue-in-cheek experience. So we're playing tonight a portion of Appalachian Spring, the Shaker Hymn, and also it goes right into a portion of Billy the Kid called The Open Prairie. And I've shortened it, sort of a Reader's Digest version. So I hope you enjoy our little tribute to Aaron Copeland.
Our next American composer is Griffith. Born in 1892, he was part of a long line of accomplished musicians. With a grandfather who was a cellist in the Met, an uncle who played in Los Angeles, he was also a member of the faculty of the Juilliard School of Music. In addition to being a very accomplished classical musician, Freddie was also an excellent jazz artist. He both arranged, wrote, and performed jazz. Most notably, he wrote the arrangement of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue for orchestra. He is most famous for writing the Grand Canyon Suite, but he wrote a number of other suites with American themes as well, including one called the Missouri River, Niagara Falls, the Hudson River, and Death Valley. So up next, we'll be performing a selection of moments from the Grand Canyon Suite.
Our next composer is one of the most well-known composers of all time for jazz music, Duke Ellington, but you can't leave the name Billy Strayhorn out of the same conversation. They wrote the A Train and many of the other pieces, Satin Doll. They worked as a team. Duke always took the credit, but Billy Strayhorn is always in the background. His parents were both pianists. One was classical and one was popular. And he got his nickname Duke from his piano teacher, because he always dressed up. He was a bit of a dandy, and his teacher thought, oh, well, you should be called Duke or Prince or something. So she gave him that nickname, and it stuck. His actual real name is Edward, and so forth. He was a pianist for Cotton Club, and he had his own orchestra. Of course, Billy Strayhorn was a big effect in his whole life. He wrote all kinds of popular songs and jazz pieces, but he also loved classical music because of his family background. And there's an arrangement of the Nutcracker Suite and Peer Gynt for jazz band. And they're amazing arrangements. They're just spectacular. So if you ever get a chance, go online and put Duke Ellington Nutcracker Suite, which is usually not something you put in the heading. In any case, he's part of jazz royalty. We have Duke Ellington, and then we have, of course, Count Basie. And we have Paul Whiteman, who premiered the Rhapsody in Blue we discussed. King of Jazz. Benny Goodman was the king of swing. Ella Fitzgerald's the queen of jazz. The prime minister of jazz we heard from earlier, Ferdy Grofé, was the prime minister of jazz. So the royalty of jazz is thick, and it still goes on today. We have an artist known as Prince. So there's nothing new under the sun. Our performance tonight is truly a jazz performance. Some parts of what we do are fairly well organized and would be similar in one performance over another, but a good portion of it would be different completely, because we're going to literally improvise when we play our version of Take the A Train by Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. Hope you enjoy.
Briskin Gershowitz, better known as George Gershwin, was born in 1898 and died tragically at the age of 38 in 1937. Known for his numerous popular songs and his film scores, he's also known for a number of classical works, including Rhapsody in Blue, the Concerto in F, An American in Paris, and his operetta Porgy and Bess. Our selection today is from the show OK and was introduced by Gertrude Lawrence. It's called Someone to Watch Over Me. And we'd like to dedicate this piece to those in our community who are watching over all of us, our healthcare workers, those that are serving in all different capacities in necessary services, grocery stores, postal workers. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your sacrificial service.
Composer is Max Steiner, and he's referred to often as the Mozart of the movies. He, like Gershwin, was an immigrant. He was born in Vienna, came to the United States, eventually settled in Hollywood and started his film career as a composer that way. He was, like Mozart, a child prodigy. He played the piano, he was a composer, he had already written his first operetta at age 11. By the time he was 15, he had already graduated from music school, was working in the field. His godfather was Richard Strauss. I mean, he comes from a pedigree like no other. In his daughter's biography, he was obsessed with writing music. He would get up in the middle of the night, write down something for 20 minutes, go back to sleep, and this would go on all night, day after day, month after month. He's known primarily for writing the music to Gone with the Wind, and it's a beautiful score. It is second behind John Williams' Star Wars in the list of greatest film scores ever. And the producer said, well, Max, just use classical music. That's what people do. And he said, no, this is unbelievable. So when it's a film, and I'm going to write music for it, he writes 357 different segments for the movie. And they're just beautiful. Everything is so well done and so well orchestrated. He's a genius. So we're going to play the main melody from Gone with the Wind, which is called Tara's theme, and also called My Own True Love. He had 24 Academy Award nominations and was a winner 3 times. So here's Max Steiner's contribution to American music. Our next composer is John Williams, who we know of more recently. He has, get this, 24 Grammys, 7 British Film Awards, 5 Academy Awards, and 4 Golden Globe Awards. He has 51 Academy Award nominations, second only behind Walt Disney. He's a part of contemporary American music basically like no other artist. He wrote music for Star Wars, Schindler's List, E.T., Indiana Jones, some of the Harry Potter, Home Alone, Jurassic Park. He also wrote the theme from Mission, which is used by NBC News still, and it's also the Olympic theme and fanfare that we hear during the Olympic season. So he's basically everywhere. When he was a young man, he went under the name of Johnny Williams, and he wrote the incidental music for Gilligan's Island television program. He was the conductor of the Boston Pops from 1989 to 1993. We're going to play 3 pieces. We're going to start with the theme from Star Wars, go into the theme from E.T., and then end with Raiders from the Lost Ark. So I hope you enjoy our John Williams tribute. 2, 3.
Our next composer is one that has become a household name. Richard Rodgers was born in New York in 1902 and died in 1979. He was a student at what is now the Juilliard School of Music, and while there, he focused his studies on composition. He's worked with two significant lyricists, Lawrence Hart and Oscar Hammerstein II. Notably, he is designated as an EGOT, that's E-G-O-T, meaning that he has been awarded an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. In addition, he has also won a Pulitzer Prize, one of only two people in history to have received all 5 awards. The other is Marvin Hamlisch. Up next, we'll be playing an arrangement of Edelweiss from The Sound of Music by Richard Rodgers. Our next selection was written by two artists who never met. The music of America the Beautiful was written by Samuel Ward, a New Jersey organist in the late 1800s, and its original title was O Mother Dear Jerusalem. The lyrics were written by Catherine Bates and were adapted from her poem about Pikes Peak. The song was published in the way that we know it in 1910. A number of times, a bill has been sent to Congress to replace the Star-Spangled Banner with America the Beautiful as our national anthem. But as yet, none of these attempts have succeeded. The arrangement we'll be presenting today is by jazz composer and arranger Claire Fisher, who was born in 1925 and died in 2012. It'll be performed by Marshall Griffith.
We're going to end our program tonight where we started, with John Philip Sousa, the most patriotic piece we could think of, which was the Stars and Stripes Forever. Thank you for coming to the Quarantine Concerts this evening. We've really enjoyed being here. Thanks to Virginia for playing, and tonight you get to hear Virginia also play the piccolo. So here's the Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Marshall and Virginia, for this wonderful performance. We'd like to thank you, our beloved audiences, for being so supportive of our quarantine concerts in the last 2 months. We managed, as I told you before, to raise $18,000, which surpasses our goal of $15,000. This is absolutely wonderful, and thanks to you, we're able to continue to contribute to our musicians and pay them throughout the month of June. With your generous support, we're also able to continue our activities at Piano Cleveland. In case any of you really enjoyed the quarantine concerts in the last 2 months, you're able to contribute directly to Piano Cleveland's annual fund. This would allow us to continue and bring you exciting programming and support our musicians. Our next project is a very interesting one. This is an online piano competition that we called Virtualoso. The two words combine virtual and virtuoso, making it Virtualoso. This is going to be a piano competition in collaboration with Steinway & Sons, where 30 participants are in 5 countries around the world, in 5 locations. More correctly, Cleveland, New York, London, Hamburg, and Beijing are going to come to their local Steinway galleries and perform, basically like pre-record their performance and play for an international jury. We're going to do it very, very similar to how we did the quarantine concerts, open to donations basically around the world, and you are going to be able to contribute directly to your favorite participant. We're guaranteeing that every of the 30 candidates who's going to be selected to participate is going to get at least $1,000 and really be able to support them at this time that so many concerts are canceled, and just to remind you that many, many musicians really had their, they depend on this income and of these concerts, and unfortunately, of course, all performances are canceled in these days, so this is the least we can do at Piano Cleveland to support them, so we're so grateful for your continued support. It was a privilege being with you in the last 2 months. And thank you so much for following Piano Cleveland's quarantine concerts. I'm going to play, as I started the quarantine concerts 2 months ago, playing one of my favorite composers, Schumann. I'm going to finish with another piece by Schumann, and this is the Arabesque. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for being with us tonight and in the past 2 months. Thank you.